everybody. I'm Saher. This is Brandy. And we had the honor of participating in a panel discussion on our comrade's new book, A Realistic Path to Peace, which you can find in that bookshelf over there, the blue one. And we had it in this space here last Thursday. The way we decided to organize this panel was each panelist took a chapter and debriefed on what they gained from it, why they chose it, and the interconnectedness between all the chapters. So the book is focused on U.S. wars on Palestine, Russia, and China, and basically the political motivations behind these wars. I don't know if you want to talk about
So we also, things that we covered when we were talking, or having that conversation about the book, or about the United's book, was also thinking about class consciousness and the class stratification of the United States. How do we mobilize workers and connecting their struggle as workers to national oppression and anti-imperialist work. We talk a lot about different identities, so like the Boricua resistance against U.S. Hegemony in the region of the Caribbean. So we also mentioned Haiti, Haitian sovereignty, and then how do all of these different struggles connect to not just Palestine, but also the aggression that we're seeing against China, Russia, and different U.S. adversaries that are actually not as workers, not the workers' adversaries, but the adversaries of the capitalist class, the capitalist elite, who see their dollar and the power of the U.S. dollar waning globally. And then I don't want to speak too much on the China portion, which is what I covered in the panel, but just talking a lot about how now, actually I won't go into that yet, but I'll talk about that in the next section. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So Dee talks about sort of the U.S. need to maintain hegemony all over the world and maintain a unipolar world, and encourages us to think about what does peace actually look like if not submission to U.S. imperialism. And he talks about, Palestine, Russia, and China because at the root of it is U.S. imperialism and the desire to maintain power over these markets and global energy. And I decided to focus on Ukraine in particular as someone who feels relatively well-versed on the Palestinian cause and the history. I wanted to learn more about Ukraine, especially because I see a lot of the parallels in the way, U.S. rhetoric and media representation of Russia and Russians. As someone who's like Arab and Muslim, I see the vilification of my people and, the political motives behind that. So I wanted to understand more about the political motives of vilifying Russians. And Dee actually does a really great job in talking about the history of Ukraine and the prevalence of Nazism in Ukraine and how the CIA has allowed that to fester in order to use neo-Nazi groups to overthrow the Ukrainian government and pursue U.S. interests in a proxy war. I also learned a bit more about the pogroms and the ethnic cleansing that has taken place by these Nazi groups in Ukraine, and I made the point that seeing what ethnic cleansing looks like today in Palestine and understanding the details and the horrors of it, now when I read about past genocides and other genocides, it carries a very different weight. And I think that's why it's so incredibly important for us to defend revolutionary struggles, to defend the resistance that is taking place, in Palestine, in Haiti, and all over the world against U.S. imperialism.
And then also connecting that struggle to the aggression that we're seeing against China. Even yesterday with the tariffs that were unleashed on China, specifically targeting EV, electric vehicles, it's only because we know that China has advanced technology and has great infrastructure, has great systems of care for their communities and system of care in regional provinces and things of that sort. And so when we're comparing that to the contradictions we see in the US, of course we would tariff China because they're quote unquote stealing the businesses that we aren't failing to make. Terribly failing, you know, like we have Tesla, that's not even good EV. But anyway, moving past that, thinking a lot, this is something I was thinking about like personally though when I thought about connecting D Knight's book to the aggression we're seeing against China. A lot of the outsourcing that we did of labor in the mid to late 70s and early 80s, that is the prime example. That labor force that we pushed out to China, that all of that work that we just pushed out, you know, they were the ones that were doing our work for us. And so we're mad at them, essentially. That's what the tariffs is a result of. That's a kind of a simple way to do dialectical materialism, but that's the conclusion I came to. And then also thinking deeper about the contradictions we see when we're thinking about human rights abuses, when the U.S. spouts these lies, this rhetoric about Uyghurs in Xinjiang province, and about Tibetans, and about Taiwanese independence, but still maintains its hegemony and its deeply violent grip on Puerto Rico. Being Boricua myself, seeing like the bombing of Vieques, and things of that sort, seeing my people being treated as medical subjects or for like just different advances in Western science. You can't, you know, be a nation that's heralding, oh, I'm a champion for human rights, and then simply bombing a country not that far away from your shores. And then also seeing with that the embargo on Cuba, seeing the invasions of Haiti and Dominican Republic, an extension of that. And then also beyond our own hemisphere, but just going into AFRICOM and seeing the violence that we're instilling in Sudan and the ways that we're fanning the flames of genocide and capitalist exploitation in the Congo, and even beyond that. I think all of these things are interconnected because we are the global hegemon as the United States. China isn't doing that. China is not doing that. China is not the global hegemon in the ways that the U.S. has exported its violence and has maintained ontological terror in the world against all peoples, working peoples, colonized peoples of the world, and even in here in the United States for our racialized folks, being Black and Latino, growing up in the Bronx, seeing the development that China has in their neighborhoods and seeing the infrastructure that they have, whether it's healthcare, physical buildings and things of that sort, they care about their people, and the United States cares about its capital. So in order to challenge its capital, China and many other nation states are building against that polarity, that unipolar world. And that's why they're such a threat to the bourgeois. That's why we, as working peoples, need to not be chauvinistic and antagonistic to China and other states. But we need to stand in solidarity with the multipolar, the anti-imperialist, and the Marxist world, not anti-capitalist. We have to be overt and clear in our support of resistance, whether it's supporting Palestinian resistance and not denying our support for Hamas and Al-Qassam fighters and all fighters in the region against the Zionist entity and things of that sort. So thinking about how thinking about imperial aggression against China is so deeply connected and interwoven into the ways that we show up in these spaces. And to point to what Richie said earlier about, the beginning of the movement, people were saying ceasefire now, ceasefire now. We're also seeing a growing shift in the ways that we view China, the shift in the way that we view Iran, the shift in the way that we view these other states. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, you can find the video on YouTube.